Welcome to Geordie Lass and Doc Sass. One day, a Geordie and a Canadian walk into a bar and decide to start a podcast about relationships, and what a topic that is. No subjects are off limits. Get in touch today with us at geordielass.com or email info@geordielass.com and let us know what you think and what we should talk about. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, welcome. Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
How's it going?
Oh, you know. Polikala, everything is good. Just like I know 15 Greek words now as opposed to like the 3 that I knew in January. So it's good. Greetings from Athens.
Polishing up on your Greek.
Ah, yeah, indeed. I mean, I have the last name, so I should kind of honor it with the language. It's good. I mean, it's beautiful. Greece. Everything tastes great here, looks good, and it's warmer, and it's beautiful. People are friendly.
Nice to get some sunshine, isn't it?
Oh my God. So Greeks are really funny because like you'll see the weather forecast and it'll be like cloudy every day for the next week. I'm like, oh man, that sucks. But actually the experience of like a quote unquote cloudy day is like, there'll be like more sun than clouds. Like a few like scattered clouds across the sky is considered cloud. And like 3 seconds of rain is considered torrential. So I can really get used to this. I'm from Vancouver where like it rains for 3 days straight. You don't see, or 3 weeks straight where you don't see the sun for 3 weeks. Yeah. So I could really get used to this version of clouds.
It does make a difference, that's for sure.
Totally.
Do you know what? I can't eat a bit of feta cheese now without thinking of you.
Oh,
Do you know what you've done to me?
Oh, love, that's wonderful.
It's like every time I'm making a salad, I'm thinking, oh yeah, Anna would like this.
Oh my God. I love it. That is like the best thing to be remembered by. It's wonderful.
So yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm eating like a house on fire, going crazy. Yeah,
Good.
I know, proper thing.
Good. Yeah, it's good to eat.
Oh gosh, and it is good to eat incredibly fresh food that is like I had the crispiest cucumber I've ever had in my life a week ago.
Nice.
The crispiest, like the best I've ever had. And there's kiwis down here, there's strawberries, like what? The best strawberries I've ever had in my life. Anyways, enough food porn.
I know, you're making me hungry. We've got to stop talking about food.
I know. We got work to do.
Pre-dinner recording here, love.
Oh, geez, God, I'm the worst.
Can't talk about food.
Oh, my God, totally.
Setting my taste buds off.
I know. Oh, gosh, I know. It is a bit cruel. But okay, so I'm going to change topics off food and ask what is going on at the relationship desk of love.
I'm glad you asked, Anna.
I'm pretty jet lagged, but I can still fashion a recollection of that relationship desk.
That's good. So we haven't had a little survey for a while, so I thought I'd bring one up. So,
yes.
Yeah. So the title of the news is "It's Not You, It's Me."
Oh.
So there was a study done of Gen Z and millennials, and apparently 70% or 7 in 10 of those asked said the last relationship ended because of them and not because of the other person.
Oh, okay.
So it went on to say that 61% of men and 50% of women know that they caused the most recent dates to go very poorly. And in fact, I think this was 75% of the men said they knew exactly what they did wrong. So would you like to know what they were?
Yes.
Okay. So 46% said they looked at their phone too much.
Oh, yes. Big one.
On a date. I think that's not so great, is it?
Yeah.
39% turned up late. That would be a no-no in my books. 39% said that they didn't offer to pay for the bill, and they then kind of felt like they should have done.
Oh, yeah.
So, but you'd be pleased to hear that 60% of those who were asked were going to actively work on this so that they could improve their relationships and their dating in the future.
Yeah.
So they were aware and they were going to do something about it.
Oh. You know, this brings up, so Toastmasters is really is a big organization of sort of local chapters of people who probably want to do a lot of things, but one of them is improve their public speaking. And one of that is becoming intentional and aware of the unconscious things that we do in our presentations and speeches that take away from the power of our speech, whether it's like our ums and ers and so forth. And so you can actually have an audience of people point this out, and you can actually become conscious and then start to correct and override. when people mess up a date, they don't actually know that it's like similar to a presentation. You might have been like, oh, I did really well. When somebody watching would say, no, it was actually really just distracting with a lot of your, habits and sort of, so it takes a lot of intentional effort to recognize how you're showing up and how you're perceived and to change it. And the phone is the worst because I don't think that a single person recognized that they were on their phone too much until after the fact.
Yeah.
Or when it was way too late.
But I suppose it's one of those things, like why even get it out at all? If it's not there, then you're unlikely to be as distracted as you are if it's on the kind of table, like if you're eating, drinking, whatever. You've got it directly in front of you. You're more likely to pick it up. We know that. Mm-hmm. We're all kind of psychologically trained now.
Yeah.
We're being brainwashed.
Oh, we totally have. Yeah. And there's this perception of importance, like, oh, there might be something important to come in. Let's be honest, like nobody ever calls us anymore. Like nobody calls anybody. Yeah. And it's texts and messages and like Twitter updates, Instagram. You don't like none of this is essential. So I think when I meet somebody and they have their phone on the table, it gives this kind of dickish vibe. Like unless they are on call.
Yeah.
As a surgeon, a transplant surgeon, I'd be like, okay, I get that. But like, if you are like a finance bro and you need to, I'm like, nah, do you really like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Because this perception that the person is like putting it on. And that's not cool.
Yeah.
So lower the dick energy and keep the phone in your briefcase, in your pocket, in your whatever. Totally. Yeah. And be present.
For both sexes, I think it's the same advice, isn't it?
Totally.
We're easily distracted by these things. But you're right. The whole thing is about being intentional and being present. You shouldn't be turning up late. Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why keep somebody else waiting? Not very respectful start, is it?
Well, and there's a lot of people. I am a reformed late person. I haven't even totally reformed because I still edge on the skating edge of late. But when I was a late person, I would just go up and make excuses. I would, it's the traffic. Oh, it's the train. Oh, it's the whatever. And that's the defensiveness that we hold as a barrier to stop taking responsibility for like, no, Anna, you're just late and you didn't leave enough buffer time. Yeah. Change your ways. Do better. Yeah. And I've slowly had to become a person who just stops making excuses because those excuses prevent me from change. If the bus was late, I should have just buffered extra time because in Toronto, like everything runs late. So I've learned, and if I can learn, so can you.
So there.
Yeah, totally.
Quite right.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great list of very sobering, especially because like we're all crawling out of the, fuzzy sweaters of winter and putting on our sundresses and starting to think about future possibilities again. So like, put your best foot forward and show up on time, put your, phone in your bag and ask curious questions and smile.
Yeah.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Pack a condom. Just saying. Can't stop myself. Pack 3.
It's good advice.
You never know. You
might need one.
You'd never know what the other person had in mind and whether they have a supply on as well. So just make sure you've got your own.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Warmed us up then.
Slipping in the sauce. Oh, God.
Oh, deep breaths, everybody. We've got this. All right, let's switch it on to a hot topic.
You've got it.
Okay, today's hot topic. What are boundaries?
Yes. We talk about this all the time.
We do talk about boundaries all the time, but I don't know that we've ever really done an episode that talks about what they are. I think we've said about how to set them maybe.
We've never
really got kind of quite detailed about what boundaries are, have we?
No. I think we have to go back to the fundamentals.
Yes, exactly, yeah. I feel like boundaries, it's one of those words that's become quite popular now, and I don't know that we've kind of really sitting and establish what does that mean for us.
Yeah.
What does it look like in our lives?
Absolutely. I think there's some people who have a better familiarity because they've had to do some work specifically around like toxic parents or toxic home structures where they've had to set healthy boundaries as they're stepping into adulthood. So people like that might have examined the definition. But then there's a lot of folks who have heard the buzzwords and have read the Medium articles, but they're not totally sure. So what is a boundary?
So I think of boundaries, it's a bit of a kind of line, isn't it? It's saying, if you think about boundaries in a kind of, in your house, in the, in kind of property, you can kind of see like a boundary is that specific bit that says this is my land and that is your land, and there's a line that separates us, and so we kind of know what that looks like. It's on a map, we can visualize it, we can see it if we need to. It's part of the deeds and the records, so it's really crystal clear, isn't it, about who owns what. So when you think about that same analogy to then kind of applying that into relationships, and when we talk about boundaries, it is about that, the line that I'm not prepared to cross, or these are the things that are kind of, this is how I'm going to behave, this is how I want you to behave, this is what I'm going to accept or what I'm not going to accept. And we can get it in lots of different parts of the life. So it might be about physical boundaries, and maybe, and those boundaries may change over time as your relationship kind of evolves and develops. And so it's not saying that they're completely set in stone, as the example of the property is, but they can kind of change and morph over time as you maybe start to trust each other, or your relationship develops a bit more.
Yep. Yeah, totally. So if I think what I like to think of is like, when do I realize that I need to set a boundary? And it's usually, so the need for a boundary can start off as an unconscious reaction, which can be, when I'm around certain people, there's certain people who get me very angry, where I'm suffocated. I feel anxious around, my heart starts racing. I feel a sense of dread. And these are all signs that something is encroaching upon you, is treading over you, whether it's your values, whether it's fairness, which is a value. So oftentimes the need for a boundary is actually comes from, I feel like I'm always run over by somebody, or I don't have control. I feel a loss of control in certain relationships.
Yeah, it can often be kind of your needs as well. So if I've got certain specific needs and I'm noticing that that's not happening, and then as a result of that, I can then see an emotional reaction that happens, or, I get a real kind of strong sense of emotion that I didn't have. And I'm seeing that happening time and time and time again. That kind of says, actually, I need to do something about this, because it's not going to go away. I mean, we were talking briefly about something else, and just how sometimes you have to be, a grown up and be able to communicate some of these things. And it's not, and it isn't always that easy, and would much rather kind of make excuses or try and find an easier option to change the behaviour. But the reality is, it's going to keep happening unless we kind of put some sort of firm stake in the ground about what we, what we need and want, and how we want things to be.
Oh, that's so resonating. And it is true. Like, people will continue to treat you a certain way, in the way that you've actually trained them to teach you, until you change the rules and explicitly state them. I am absolutely vibing on this at the present time in my life. And it's a really hard, painful thing. I think the other thing too is there's this presumption that people have the best intentions for us and that people wouldn't hurt us. So therefore you're like, well, but they wouldn't possibly treat me like that, or so forth. But people end up hurting us and treating us in horrible, shitty ways. Not because they're shitty people, but because, like, anybody given the opportunity to take advantage of somebody is going to do it.
But if you don't know that something's a problem for somebody, why would you not carry on with that behaviour?
That's,
and this is the thing, right? So what is acceptable to me and what's acceptable to my partner are probably completely different things in terms of, and I know that there are examples where I would say, well, that just wouldn't even affect me in the slightest. Therefore, I'm unlikely to kind of consider it or think about it, because it's not something that would, upset me or hurt me or annoy me. Whereas, and as you say, you're never doing things out of kind of malice. It's, I'm acting a certain way, or I'm doing a certain thing because actually it's kind of irrelevant to me. It doesn't have any energetic charge for me when But then your partner they're completely different and they're interpreting your actions as something completely different sometimes. So we do have to be really clear with each other about some of these kind of hard lines that aren't acceptable in our eyes, because there could be something completely different to your partner. So, and if they don't ever think that it's an issue, then why would they do something different?
Yes. And that's true. But then there's some things that are pretty universally shitty. For example, I have clients who say, I was with a coworker and they talked my ear off. I'm a big talker, so actually I do this, I'm sure, all the time. Sarah's like, yes. Sorry, Sarah. Set some boundaries.
I've got no chance of boundaries with you.
Oh, God, I know. I do sometimes respect boundaries. But yes, actually, this is a great...
Carry on with your example.
Okay. This is actually a great example. But so if somebody talks their ear off for an hour uninterrupted and the other person is just sitting there taking it, feeling increasingly resentful, pissed off, and trapped, right? You could say that the person monologuing for an hour was objectively rude. That is in no way should anybody think, oh man, I talked for an hour. I can't believe I just did that. That's ridiculous. But it's not it's so weird how we lose sight of etiquette almost. I have over-talked people all the time, and yet it hasn't felt abnormal to me. But yet if somebody pointed it out, I'd be like, oh shit, yeah, I did go on for a long, long time. So I think where we get trapped is not where there's a difference, just differences in needs and subjectivity. It's where it's objectively horrible, but we're not aware of how objectively horrible it is. I always take money from this person. I'm always asking them for money and I never pay them back. Because in my head somewhere, I'm like, oh, they've got enough money, or, oh, they just wanted to give it to me. They say that they're happy to do it. Well, in what world is it acceptable for you to actually just take money and not give it back? So a lot of the time we rely upon, there's egregious things that we do to each other because we're not thinking and we're only thinking about ourselves.
But it's human nature that because we know so much about who we are as individuals, and we very rarely share kind of all of that, even with our closest intimate partners. So of course we think about everything in through our tone and lens and view of the world, because we know ourselves better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So we are going to be naturally thinking about us the majority of the time, because we're very good at internalizing kind of lots of thoughts and feelings and playing back events and things like that. So we're really, really good at that. We have the longest relationship with ourselves.
Yeah.
So of course we're going to think about us.
Yeah.
We're inherently selfish.
Well, because we're present in every moment that we encounter.
Yeah, exactly.
So of course we're the protagonist of our story. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I think the number one thing is to remove the emotion of, oh, I can't believe this person doesn't know what I need or know what I want or know what is appropriate behavior and so forth. Just ponder for just a second on your own selfishness and self-absorbedness, and then it'll give you oh, okay, yeah, no, I would need to be told.
Yes.
So, and I'd be grateful for somebody to go out on a limb and to take the effort to tell me, because that's a hard thing, because I'm probably going to get defensive. If somebody sets a boundary with me, with you, Sarah, you could talk a little bit less. I'm like, oh, but I was just really upset that day. No, Anna, get your shit together. Be more considerate. Yeah. So that's the thing that I like to think about is when do I need to set up a boundary wall? And encountering some of those fears and apprehensions around, am I allowed to bring up this boundary? Am I overreacting? No, you're not. If you feel anger and resentment and suffocation and you want to run away from somebody because you feel a loss of control in a particular relationship, that relationship is going to be over because you would have ghosted them and run away, possibly left the country. I've done that before.
It sounds like you're reading a diary here, Anna.
Maybe. I've had terribly poor boundaries as a kid. Yeah, I was raised Catholic with in a household that was you don't speak till you're spoken to. So you don't get boundaries. You have to learn that shit later. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Totally. Well, and I think it's something for all of us. We're all discovering new ways of kind of handling situations that are unpleasant or we don't want to be in. But it is really important to kind of get clear on it. And I think, as you say, but part of the issue is actually we don't know often what we like and don't like as well. So if we've never experienced a situation where we have been encouraged to kind of say how we're feeling or say what we want and don't want, if we've not been in that situation, it can be really, really hard to actually even kind of understand what are my boundaries. So I think that's something that is quite important, is to say, you know, what are the things for me that, and maybe just start with small things, you know. Often it's things like between couples, the stuff that comes up is around kind of household chores, and they're quite kind of, you know, basic boundary setting, but it is that sort of thing, right? So, you know, we've talked on here before about people have different rules about whether, you know, who's cooking, who's cleaning up, who's doing the dishes, and part of establishing that routine and what it looks like and what I'm prepared to do and what I'm not prepared to do is about saying, no, this is kind of, this is what I'm happy with. I'm not happy with this. That does not kind of, you know, doesn't wash on me, doesn't feel fair, and values kind of play a part into this as well. So if you've got a strong value of fairness, then you're going to see that with boundaries that will actually help you to maintain some of those values and not have them kind of crossed over too much.
Oh, yes. Makes you want to get started, hey? Like, yeah. Yeah, that is empowering stuff. That's like it's a helpful definition, and it's a helpful set of sort of guiding principles around where a boundary might be needed and how to start kind of going about it and how to guide the building, which is, again, using your values as your blueprint. Yeah.
And I think one of the best analogies that I've ever kind of heard, and I've definitely shared this on the podcast, but I'll share it again in this context, is just, you know, having no boundaries is like having no doors and windows to your house, and anybody can come in, take whatever they want, whenever they want to. Like, you just wouldn't do it. Wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Absolutely.
So...
And to that note, it's funny because I've had the opportunity to explore, as a physician would, which means very superficially, the work of the Stoic philosophers, the folks who lived a few thousand years ago, like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius. But basically, this feeling of we guard our possessions with fancy alarm systems and vaults and safety deposit boxes, like our precious things, but we do not guard our time at all. And if we just guarded our time anywhere near to the extent that we guard our material possessions, we wouldn't sort of skate in or like, go crashing into the end of our lives saying, oh my God, I ran out of time too soon. And so that's a huge boundary, is the boundary around your time, because it is precious. So guard your time.
But we feel guilty saying no to things, don't we? We feel guilty kind of not, if somebody asks something or wants to do something or, you know, stays on the telephone a bit too long, kind of feel guilty for saying, actually, no, I need to go now, or no, now's not convenient time. Like, we just seem to be not very good at that.
Totally. We're so concerned about people pleasing that we are willing to give away our precious time.
Yeah.
All
right.
Oof. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Well, that's got us back in the groove.
Totally.
Are you ready for a question, Madame?
Yes, I'm very ready. Let's go.
Okay. All right. You're going to love this one. Today's question. I think about sex a lot, and I'm curious about how much my partner thinks about sex. I'm scared to ask in case he thinks badly of me. What's a normal amount of time to think about sex?
Oh, yes, of course I love this. Totally. Yes.
Is this you writing this question in?
I mean, I actually, I ponder this regularly. Honestly, I really do. Not just for me, but for everybody I know. Absolutely.
So tell us more then.
Well, it's funny. I think so my most recent observation is I thought I kind of just trended in the normal distribution. I didn't think I was any different, but I think we all are very different in this. And I think that we assume sort of a homogeneity, which is to our peril. There's people who need sex for intimacy, to build intimacy. There's people opposite who need to build intimacy before sex. And people's libidos are wildly different. And it depends on the stage of their life, whether they're partnered or not, who they're with. There's just so many factors that like I realized I was really different from other people and really different from my partner. That was a huge learning. So I think where I stand is I applaud the person asking the question. And I also, it's very, very hard to talk about this. And there's this assumption that like, well, everybody loves to sex, right? Well, no, actually, there's a big, big spread of wanting to think about it, wanting to do it, wanting to experiment, the what, when, why, where, and how. So yeah, lots of heterogeneity. And we need to be, I wish we were more comfortable with having conversations like this, like, along the lines of like, well, what kind of food do you like to eat? And when do you like to eat? How often? Right.
Yeah. But it's true though, you wouldn't have any qualms actually saying to somebody, oh, what's your favourite takeaway? Like that would never be an issue. Or, what's your best holiday destination? We'll ask some of those questions that get to know the other person that we're with and in a relationship with, but we wouldn't kind of, something like this, I can understand why somebody's writing in and asking this question, to sit there and say kind of, look, I'm just really curious, like how often do you think about sex a day? Or a week, Yeah. Because actually I've noticed that I'm thinking about sex quite a lot, and I was just wondering, is it me? Like, is that just my side? Is that your side? Like what do you think about it? But it's such a big part of relationships that we need to get braver, I think, at just raising some of the topics around sex.
Oh, yeah, totally. And furthermore, I've heard from a lot of couples where there is total mismatch in libido, where like the end outcome is that they're not having the same frequency and type of sex as each individually would like. There's discordance in that. And I've heard from partners who are not having as much sex as they would like, who have said, it's one thing to not be having sex, but if only I could tell my partner, I'm thinking about it right now. I know we can't do it because there's certain things we're working on and it's not a possibility, but I'm really thinking about it. And I would love to know that you're at least thinking about it too.
Yeah.
And even that can be so soothing, but we have such an allergy to even raising that because it's like, oh my God, if we talk about sex and it's a very, very sensitive topic for us, like, genitals will fly into each other and like, oh my God, all of a sudden we're going to have sex. Don't mention it. Otherwise genitals will come flying out of the air. Yeah. No, there's this real fear of just raising it. It just is, Yeah. And you know how very, like, I mean, Sarah, you're the queen of our favorite C word, the communication, where I balk at it. I get really scared about bringing this up because of all the shame. I'm dirty. I'm whatever. I'm sex obsessed. Things.
Because I think doing the work that we do, then that really, for me, has helped to just actually shine a light on a lot of things and how kind of, there's a lot of differences across relationships, but there's also a lot of similarities as well, and people struggle with the same things kind of over and over again. It's, we see that the same kind of issues are popping up. And I think sex is one of those that does, kind of pop up as well. Pardon the pun.
Totally.
And the more comfortable we can feel about just having some of those conversations. But I get what you're saying. If I'm thinking actually I'm ashamed or I'm embarrassed, or then that's going to hold me back. Or if it sounds like this listener don't want to feel judged. So rather than being honest and saying, look, it doesn't mean anything. What does it mean if you think about sex 6 times a day, as opposed to somebody who doesn't think about it at all? What does that mean? What does it say about you? It doesn't say anything about you.
Completely.
It just says that, I think about it more and you think about it less, or vice versa. It's not, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. You prefer Indian, I prefer Thai. Like,
yeah.
None of it is, they're facts in a life that help to shape kind of who we are, and for somebody else to get a better picture and understanding about it.
I think that's true, but then I kind of query, okay, so the person writing in, and I'm thinking about my own self, like if I want to communicate to somebody that I think about sex a lot, do you too? I guess I want to sort of jump to, okay, so but why is that important for me to communicate? Is it because it is a call to action for the person I'm telling to have more sex with me? You know, or is that a call to say I am not satisfied? I'm trying to imagine a world where I'm like, oh, I just think about sex a lot. It doesn't have to be actioned. I just, you know, it crosses my mind.
Everything we share has to be action though, does it? We're just, sometimes we're just sharing who we are. It's not saying I'm telling you this because I want something else to happen. If that's the conversation and we're using it to kind of set that up, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But we know that we're going into a conversation because we want to get some firm kind of action. What a minute innuendos in this.
Oh, this is so much fun.
Some firm action.
I was going to say.
But I might just be sharing it because I just want to share this is kind of just a bit about who I am. Like, so I don't know if this listener is just wanting to kind of share a bit of information and have a bit of comparison, or, you know, it might be that actually that's an opportunity to really connect on something because for them, they know that actually we're both kind of highly sexual and we do think about it a lot. And so that's kind of another way that we are bonded together as a couple because we know that we share similarity in this area.
Oh, okay.
Now, if that was any other area, you probably wouldn't be that bothered about it.
I mean, it's true. Like
sex and money, they're the things that we're ashamed of.
Yeah.
And too terrified to have conversations about.
Well, and it's funny. We were talking about tennis. Like how many times a year do you play tennis? Twice a year. Cool. Yeah. I played 5 times a week, 7 times a week if I could. So I mean, like totally. I think what's important too, and this gets to when you're trying to communicate something, and I'm super bad for this, when you're trying to communicate something beyond to yourself and ask yourself 3 times if you have to, why am I asking this question and what do I want to get out of it? Because oftentimes I will bullshit myself into thinking I want to have just I just want to like be understood a little bit more. No, Anna, you want action. You want to evoke without asking a certain feeling of guilt or compulsion to the other person to just kind of pony up something. One of my needs aren't being met. And I want to be able to take a circuitous route around as opposed to a straight path. So, Anna, be on to yourself. If you're like, if there's an action, ask for it.
Yeah, I think if you've got a clear intention for raising this because you do want to kind of have a discussion about the frequency that you have sex, then absolutely be kind of honest and upfront in that discussion. And you might use that as a starting position, but be really clear about what you're trying to get to and be clear and honest with the other person, because otherwise it can feel a bit kind of manipulative or like I'm being duped here, I'm being conned into sharing something that's then going to be used against me or, you know, somehow weaponized. Like we can't have that, you know. We want people to open up and communicate in a kind of honest and fair manner. We've got to have an honest, fair, you know, arena to have a discussion in.
Yeah, you've got it. Yep, you've got it. Full on agree.
Yeah.
Yes. So to the person asking the question, what would you say?
I would say, tell your partner, I'm going to replace the word sex with tennis. And then I'm going to ask you, how many times a day do you think about tennis?
Oh my God, I love it.
I'm using the tennis analogy now. I quite like that.
I love it. Wouldn't that be amazing to kind of just road test that with a partner and just get it out there and just then look at that body of work you've created as a conversation and say, how did that feel?
Yeah.
Well, we just had a conversation and it didn't feel scary at all. And then you can start to replace back the word sex and for tennis. Backhand, front hand, top, bottom, front door, back door, whatever. But like, yeah, exactly. Totally. Yeah, it's all semantics. It's all words. Right. Take the charge out of the words. Replace the words.
Yeah, exactly.
That's beautiful.
Your task and challenge for the week. Set boundaries. Talk about sex.
Damn.
You got this.
Damn. Yes, exactly. All right.
Okay.
I think we're set up.
We are set up, yes.
Yeah.
And ready for the evening ahead.
It is now the evening time.
Yes.
Saucy Athens evening where people just, you know, start thinking about going out at 10 to eat. In fact, actually, I'm going to go out and
not eat that late.
Oh,
seriously.
No. Here it's crazy. So I'm going to check out a tango milonga, which is happening outside. It happens every Monday night. And I think it starts at 10:30 and goes on till 2. And because I coach until like 12:45. I'm gonna wander down and catch the last hour of this in the middle of the night. I'm like, these people are my people.
And why not?
And why not? Yes. Yeah. Tango for life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh gosh, good times. All right.
Okay, well, till next time.
Till next time.
So that's it for another week of Geordie, Lass and Doc Sass. We hope you've enjoyed listening as much as we've enjoyed chatting. Get in touch and share your questions for relationship remedies and any hot topics you want us to cover. If you need help navigating all things relationships, Anna and Sarah are available for one-on-one coaching support. Email info@geordielass.com. Please remember to like, share, subscribe if you've enjoyed listening. And if you've not, how on earth have you made it this far? I promise we'll try harder next time.